Namanda, it's Namanda, it's Namanda, it's Namanda, 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 Namanda.
Good morning. My name is Tara, and thank you for attending this morning's service. We'll begin this morning's service with a moment of quiet sitting. Reverend CJ will strike the bell, and we will sit for 1 or 2 minutes to quiet our minds and prepare to hear the Dharma. Then they will strike the bell again, and we will continue with the service.
Namo Amida Butsu, Namo Amida Butsu, Namo Amida Butsu, Namanda Butsu, Namanda Butsu, Namanda, 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 Namanda.
Reverend CJ will lead us in the chanting of the Jusege.
回避知恵言滅根門は閉塞小悪道通達戦衆門公用上満足異様老実法日月集中期天候音普言一種解放像公正不読法上王大集中説法ししく供養一切分具足習徳本元年新上満徳一三外王女仏無下地津達未不詳願学エリク投資最小尊志願や国家大戦の感動国府書天人東宇珍妙見ナマンダブナマンダブナマンダブナマンダブナマンダブナマンダブ願にしく読平等性際道本菩提心往上ナマンダブツナマンダブツナマンダブツナマンダブナマンダブナマンダブナマンダブナマンダブ
Please join us in singing the Gatha, Amida's Guiding Light.
To
Please join me in reciting the Three Treasures One. Three Treasures One. Hard is it to be born into human life. Now we are living it. Difficult is it to hear the teachings of the Blessed One. Now we hear it. If we do not realize the truth in this life, when will it be realized? Let us reverently take refuge in the three treasures of the truth. I take refuge in the Buddha. May we absorb ourselves in the principle of the way to enlightenment and awaken in ourselves the supreme will. I take refuge in the Dharma. May we be submerged in the depths of the doctrine and gain wisdom as deep as the ocean. I take refuge in the Sangha. May we live in harmony in the great assembly as disciples of Buddha and be freed from all hindrances, becoming units of true accord in the life of harmony, in a spirit of universal oneness, freed from the bondage of selfishness. Even through myriad ages of kalpas, hard is it to hear such an excellent, profound, and wonderful doctrine. Now we are able to hear and receive it. Let us thoroughly understand the true meaning of Tathagata's teaching. Namo Amida Butsu. Namo Amida Butsu. Namo Amida Butsu. Namandas. Namandas. We will now have a Dharma message by Reverend C.J. Dunford.
Thank you, Tara. Good morning, everyone. Please join me in Gassho as we recite the sacred name of Amida Buddha. Namo Amida Butsu. Namo Amida Butsu. Namo Amida Butsu. Namanda Butsu. Namanda. Namanda Butsu. Namanda. Namanda Butsu. I'm so grateful to be here with my family at Berkeley Buddhist Temple, especially on a special day like today. I hope most of us know what holiday today is. And while it isn't an official Buddhist holiday, it is an important holiday in the United States. And that holiday is called Juneteenth. It's a day to celebrate the liberation and the many cultures of the Black American community. While the ideals of freedom and equality are important in Buddhism, it's necessary that we understand that we live in a world that's not free, nor do we live in a world where all people are treated equally. However, I know that freedom and equity are practices that can live within our daily lives as Buddhists. So for today's Juneteenth Family Dharma Talk, I wanted to share a read-along about Juneteenth. The particular video that I want to share is a read-along of the book Opal Lee and What It Means to Be Free, written by Alicia Faye Duncan and art done by Katura A. Bobo. This video was recorded for February's Black History Month, but the book itself is about the holiday that we're all celebrating today. Let's listen along as the author, Alicia Faye Duncan, shares her book.
Greetings! My name is Alice Faye Duncan, and I am the author of Opal Lee and What It Means to Be Free, the true story of the grandmother of Juneteenth. Today, we are in the month of February, and what do we celebrate in February? We celebrate Valentine's Day. We also celebrate President's Day. And what is it that we celebrate during the entire month? We celebrate Black History Month during the month of February. And in celebration of Black History Month, I am going to read for you my story, Opal Lee and What It Means to Be Free, which is a celebration of the Juneteenth holiday. Freedom, hope, and joy divine. Juneteenth means it's freedom time, and we're going to celebrate Juneteenth during this Black History Month. Enjoy. Opal Lee and What It Means to Be Free. The True Story of the Grandmother of Juneteenth. Words by Alice Faye Duncan. Art by Katura A. Bobo, New York Times best-selling illustrator. Happy Juneteenth Jamboree! Come and join the fun! Opal Lee waved to her great-grandson as he barreled across the park. He zipped past lines of picnic tables covered with platters of barbecue, baked beans, tomato tarts, and raspberry cobbler. He hurried past a leaping choir draped in purple robes. He danced a jig with cowboys playing fiddles, but they did not stop his flow. Buddy ran to the blooming tree where Opal Lee held court. Her braided hair was a silver crown. Her eyes were twinkling stars. When she had been a Texas bud, like the children at her feet, Granddaddy Zach told freedom stories on his wooden porch. As Opal Lee remembered his words, she lifted her hands and cheered. Juneteenth means freedom, and now it's story time. Then Opal Lee began. Once upon a blazing sun, black bodies were bought and sold like cattle. Black men plowed the fields, but were not allowed to own the land. Black women cooked the food, but were not allowed to feast on roast and ribs from the master's table. Black children cleaned the one-room schoolhouses, but were not allowed to read or write. Earning and learning were against the law. Slavery was a thief. Opal Lee told the children, "Remember my words for safekeeping. Remember what I say. Juneteenth is bigger than Texas, singing, or dancing bands. Juneteenth is freedom rising, and freedom is for everyone. Juneteenth is you and me." As the children clapped and cheered, Buddy tugged her sleeve. "Great granddear," he called, "what was Juneteenth like when you were a kid?" Opal Lee unwrapped another story. She said, "An angry mob with flaming sticks burned my family's brand new house. Their broken minds and evil hearts were so afraid of Black progress. The police made no arrest. My family moved away. And yet the embers burn. That fire still lives in me. I learned a big lesson that Juneteenth day. Freedom is a golden coin, and struggle makes it shine." The children lifted their hands in praise. Freedom, hope, and joy divine. Juneteenth means it's freedom time. Opal Lee winked and chuckled. "I think now it's time for barbecue, strawberry cake, and red Juneteenth punch." "Glory, glory, glory," Buddy cheered and waved his hands. When he bounced up to leave, Opal Lee hugged him tightly. Then, just like birds in flight, all the children flocked into her arms. Opal Lee studied their shining faces. Black, brown, bronze, gold, white, tan, freckles. As the children dashed away, Opal Lee marveled at the bright future. She rested against the blooming tree and whispered into the wind, "Remember my words for safekeeping. Remember what I say. Freedom is for everyone. Juneteenth is you and me."
Thank you, Alice, for sharing your wonderful book. I hope that you all enjoyed learning a little bit about celebrating Juneteenth. I also hope that we can look around at the beautiful people who surround us and celebrate freedom together as we work to build a world of equality grounded in a daily practice of equity. Please join me in reciting the name of Amida Buddha. Namo Amida Butsu. Namo Amida Butsu. Namo Amida Butsu. Namanda Butsu. Namanda Namanda Butsu. Namanda Namanda Namanda. Thank you.
Thank you, Reverend CJ, for your wonderful message and sharing the story with us. I will now read the announcements that have been submitted. If you have any announcements to be read at the Sunday service to be included in the announcement slide, please send it to the temple office by Friday before service. On Sunday, June 26th, we will observe the Sochoki Late Bishop's Memorial Service. On Thursday, June 30th at 6:30 p.m., there will be the Berkeley Buddhist Temple online study session, the Dharma. The topic is Buddhist symbols. And then on Sunday, July 3rd, there will be a virtual yoga session immediately after the service. All right, and so now we will have an adult Dharma message by Reverend CJ.
Okay, if we could, thank you. Please join me in Gassho as I share the words of our founder, Shinran. Dharmakara Bodhisattva during the causal state, being in the presence of Buddha Lokeshvara Raja, and having examined the causes of Buddha's pure lands, and the good and evil of those Buddha lands, and of the heavenly and human realms, established the highest, most excellent vow, and brought forth the great universal vow. After contemplating for 5 kalpas, chose the best of them. Again, vowed that the name Amida would be heard in the 10 quarters. Namo Amida Butsu. Namo Amida Butsu. Namo Amida Butsu. Namanda Butsu. Namanda Butsu. Namanda Butsu. Namanda Butsu. This passage comes from the beginning of the Shoshinge, where the founder of our lineage, Shinran, describes the origin narrative of the Buddha Amida. This story comes from the larger Sutra of the Buddha of Immeasurable Life, where a king encounters Lokeshvara Raja Buddha and decides to forsake his regal life to pursue Buddhahood, becoming a monk and taking up the name Dharmakara. According to the larger sutra, Dharmakara practiced austerities and evaluated the attributes of the Buddha's lands, the heavenly realms, and of the human realms over the course of 5 kalpas in order to create a perfect realm where all beings could be born in order to attain nirvana. Now, a kalpa is approximately 4.3 billion years, so that's 21.5 billion years in total of careful evaluation and practice. By contrast, the Earth is approximately 4.6 billion years old, and the age of the universe is estimated to be 13.8 billion years. Thinking in these terms, the practice of Bodhisattva Dharmakara, or similarly, the virtues, insight, and understanding of Amida Buddha, extends beyond the origins of the universe. Now, something that I've noticed in myself is that I tend to hold logic, science, and reason as paramount points of guidance in my own life. That makes sense because I'm classically trained as a scientist. I studied geology both in undergrad and in graduate school. However, I'm not a professional geologist, and while my analytical mind can be very helpful, I've learned that it's just as important to live in my abstract and conceptual mind, especially when it comes to thinking about Buddhism, because there is an interesting balance of logic, of metaphysics and magic in Buddhism. So today, when we think about the myth of Bodhisattva Dharmakara, I would like to encourage us all to examine that story with a healthy balance of logical analysis, along with a sense of imaginative wonder, because they're both equally important. In talking about this story, I will use the names Dharmakara and Amida interchangeably because they're the same person, the same ideal. And the reason that I want to discuss them today is because this story is foundational to Jodo Shinshu Buddhism. And contained within that story is a powerful narrative in how we might understand and affect movements towards mutual care and equality in the world. I'm talking about the pursuit of equality specifically today, because in the US, we're celebrating two very special holidays. Today is Juneteenth, and June is LGBTQIA Pride Month. Juneteenth is officially known as Juneteenth National Independence Day, and was only just recognized as a federal holiday last year. But it's been celebrated all over the United States by the Black community since 1865. Juneteenth commemorates the emancipation of enslaved African Americans as a result of General Order No. 3, which proclaimed freedom for enslaved people in Texas, the last state in the Confederacy which held institutional slavery. This was over 2 years after the Emancipation Proclamation took effect in the American South. Today, it's been over 250 years since the announcement of General Order No. 3, and we celebrate Juneteenth, Freedom Day, on this Sunday. It's often celebrated with cultural and food festivals. There are a number of celebrations in the Bay Area this weekend, and the first time I learned of Juneteenth was in the summer of 2014 when I just moved to South Berkeley. I saw signs everywhere advertising the community celebration of this important holiday that marks the ends of a terrible practice of slavery that has affected lives of millions of people and continues to do so today. While things may have changed, we still do not live in a society of equality in the United States. I listen carefully to my Black friends when they tell me about the difficulties that they face in this racist world in which we're living. Because I know that as much as I try to be anti-racist, racism is built into our culture. And undoing racism takes constant mindfulness, constant unlearning, and constant practice. This is a reminder of where the narrative of Bodhisattva Dharmakara's 5 kalpas of practice holds a lot of wisdom for us. If it took over 21 billion years to root out all of the hatred and discrimination, to cultivate the roots of good, and to create the pure land of equality for the Buddha, how long must we toil to bring that vision to the world in which we're living? The truth of that is that we must make each and every day wake up and decide to put in the difficult work to make the world safer and more just for everyone. As I mentioned at the beginning of the talk, today we celebrate Juneteenth, and during the month of June, we celebrate queer and trans pride. Pride didn't start with a joyful rainbow celebration of queer and trans identities. It was a riotous and violent rebellion against brutal policing led by transgender women of color. Over the years, oligarchical capitalist America has turned pride into a corporate-sponsored spectacle with troves of rainbow-slathered merchandise. And while it's exciting sometimes for us to celebrate our authentic selves, the past couple of years have been among the most contentiously backward-moving ones for queer and trans rights in the United States. Each year, I learned that this year is the deadliest year on record for transgender people, especially trans women of color. And this year's no exception to that trend. Queer and trans children, and even their caretakers, are under systemic attack by conservative legislators across the country. I have to say that this year in June, as a queer, transgender, non-binary person, I don't feel much pride. I just feel scared, I feel angry, and I feel exhausted. I've been assured by elders that things have gotten better for me and my community, but honestly, better isn't enough. I'm a survivor of emotional abuse, assault, and physical abuse because of my gender and my sexuality, and I'll carry that trauma with me for the rest of my life. I'm truly tired of living in a world where that sort of traumatic violence is considered normal. Perhaps we might feel like these problems don't exist in our temples. We're Buddhists, so we accept everyone in equality, just like the Buddha. But I hate to say that that isn't true. In April, at this SF Japantown Cherry Blossom Festival, Tara and I hung rainbow and trans pride flags at our booth, representing BBT and a few other Bay Area temples. Lots of queer and trans people came over and expressed their gratitude that we support the LGBTQIA community. But at the Cherry Blossom Festival, someone from a Bay Area temple approached me to ask me how to encourage the Sangha to be more inclusive. After we chatted a bit, she told me that the temple was far from how it should be, and how it's felt like a real uphill battle to fight to get her community to care about the issues that queer and trans people face. She even told me that she commiserated with a queer friend from another temple in the Bay Area about how difficult it is to feel included and safe in their temple. These are two separate temples in the Bay Area and two friends who care very much about their community, but they also care about their safety. The Bay Area is considered to be part of the US that is generally considered more accepting and safe for LGBTQIA people. Hearing this, I felt so sad, and honestly, I wanted to take down the pride flags. I wanted to leave because I felt embarrassed and ashamed. I wonder what causes people to be so mean and hateful in our sanghas, and how many queer and trans people in the temple feel safe and included in the sangha. If that's how it is in temples in the Bay Area, how much worse is it in other temples, in communities where it's even more difficult for us to be our authentic selves? In my heart, I want to embrace the story of Amida Buddha, to work towards a world full of equality. And I wonder if in the 5 kalpas of cultivation, Dharmakara ever felt tired, scared, and angry like I do now. Like my Black friends and family might feel when they lose another loved one to violence, or when they hear of yet another extrajudicial execution. Like my Asian American and Pacific Islander friends and family when they experience or hear about another act of anti-Asian hatred. Though it's hard and some days feel hopeless, I continue to return to the notion of practice, that building an equal society requires daily practice of equity, of recognizing the problems that exist in the world, the violence, the hatred, the injustice, all grounded in discrimination. It takes a conscious decision every day to imagine a world of equality. And it takes daily practice to root out that discrimination within myself and to encourage all of us to eliminate that evil in our hearts. Dharmakara's primal vow in the larger Sutra states, if when I attain Buddhahood, the sentient beings of the 10 quarters who, with sincere and entrusting heart, aspire to be born in my land and say my name even 10 times, should not be born in the Pure Land, may I not attain enlightenment. I want to be born in a land of equality, where we all feel safe, valued, and respected, to love and to feel love, and not worry about race, gender, sexuality, ability, and so many other attributes that are judged as barriers to that love. Just as Bodhisattva Dharmakara spent 5 kalpas evaluating the good and evil in the world, and then rooting that evil out, so too must we take up this daily task. It's tempting to stop and think, well, things are better now than they were. But that's not good enough. We cannot give in to complacency. I see Amida Buddha as my own personal aspiration. I want to create a world of non-discrimination and equality, here and now. And I hope we can all take this daily practice and labor together in love to build that world. Please join me in Gassho as we read the words of Shinran once more and recite the sacred name of Buddha. Dharmakara Bodhisattva, during the causal state, being in the presence of the Buddha Lokeshvara Raja, and having examined the causes of the Buddha's pure lands, and the good and evil of those Buddha lands and of the heavenly and human realms, established the highest, most excellent vow, and brought forth the rare, great universal vow, after contemplating for 5 kalpas, chose the best of them, again vowed that the name Amida should be heard in the 10 quarters. Namo Amida Butsu. 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 That will end our service for today. I'd like to thank you all for coming. Just a few last thank yous and announcements. I'd like to thank you, Tara, for being our chairperson for today's service. Thank you, Tara. Thank you, Bradley and Myron, for your help during today's live streaming service. Thank you, Bradley and Myron. Thank you to Tony and Ryan for monitoring the chat room on our YouTube channel. Thanks, Tony and Ryan. Thank you, Emiko-san, and the music team for the beautiful gatha. Thank you to the COVID committee for keeping us safe. And thank you all for everyone who joined today's service online.